Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make our Cozy Up bracelet. This bracelet features the carrier beads that serves as a base for the peyote strip. Let's take a look at the products and tools we'll need to make it. For this project, I'm going to be using one of our mini palettes. So this is a size 11 Delica Bead Mini Palette by FusionBeads.com. And this is the Cozy Mix. And in this mix, you'll get 5 different colors of 5 grams each. And so just to go over the colors, the first one is a size 11 inside color lined light blue Delica bead. Then I have a size 11 semi-matte opaque dark capri blue. Then I've got the size 11 inside color lined rainbow pink diamonds Delica bead. I've got the size 11 inside color lined rainbow grape freeze Delica bead. And then my last one is a size 11 matte opaque rainbow periwinkle pink Delica bead. We have the blue 2-hole carrier Czech glass beads. I have some 8mm dark Lapis Swarovski crystal round pearl beads. I have 2 2x2 sterling silver crimp beads. I've got the 0.7mm clear stretch magic, and then I also have a 6-pound crystal clear braided beading thread. For my tools today, I will be using a size 11 tulip needle. I have my Xuron thread and fiber scissors. I have a tube of the E6000 and a toothpick, and then I have chain nose pliers. You can find links to all these beads and supplies in the description below. So let's get started. Okay, so for the Cozy Up bracelet, it is constructed of 6 peyote strips, 2 pieces each. So you will make 2 of pattern A, 2 of pattern B, 2 of C, 2 of the D, 2 of E, and 2 of F. And then you will glue those onto the little carrier beads. And each strip is 6 beads wide and 24 beads long, and it's even count peyote. So for the example I'm going to start with the A pattern. And that is the one that I'm going to go ahead and stitch up and show you how to do that. So I'm going to get set up for that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so to begin our project, I'm going to start with the A pattern. And all the patterns are going to be included in the instructions, A through F. And so I have a color chart here, and I also have the text pattern. And all the legends and everything are in your instructions. So I'm actually going to go off the text pattern today. And this is going to be an even count peyote strip. So we're going to start with 6 beads, and then each row we're going to be adding 3 beads. So I've already put 3 feet of FireLine on my needle, and I've already put on my stop bead. And you have the stop bead. It gives your working bead something to rest up against and also helps with your tension. So to begin your first row here, I'm just going to look at row 1. So I'm going to be picking up 2 of the number 2 beads. And again, I put my beads in the order of the numbers, so it's 1, 2, and 3, just so it's easy as I'm going along. So I'm going to pick up 2 of the number 2s, 1 of the number 1 bead, and then 3 of the number 3 beads. And I'm going to bring these all down to my stop bead here. And then I'm going to step up to the next row, and I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 3. I'm going to skip over this last bead we just added, and I'm going to go into the next pink bead next to it there. And I just kind of put my finger on it as I'm pulling everything down, so to kind of help that first row kind of seat up. Because the first couple rows of peyote, sometimes it doesn't quite want to lay down just how it should until you get a few rows in there. All right. So you can see there, I've got my first little bead there on top. Then my next one, I'm picking up 1 blue bead. And I'm skipping over this pink bead, and I'm going to go into the blue bead right next to it. So you're always skipping over 1 bead. And then just going through the next bead, and you're only going through that 1. All right, so I've got my first 2 on there. Then I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 2 beads. Excuse me. So I'm going to pick up 1. And then I'm going to skip over this blue bead and go in the last blue bead on that row. And then I'll turn around. And so after you get these first couple rows done, it sets up a lot nicer, and it doesn't want to turn on you so much here. So I'm just going to do this. There we go. All right. So I've got my first rows there. So I'm stepping up to my next row. So I'm going to pick one of the number 2 bead. And so I'm going to, stepping up, so I'm going to go, and so when you're on your next row, you always go to the bead that's popped up. So I'm just going to go to that one blue bead that's already popped up there. Making sure I'm just going through one bead at a time. And the next one is I'm going to pick up one of the number 1 bead, so the darker blue. So I'm skipping over that blue bead that's down. I'm going to go through that pink bead that's popped up. Again, just make sure you're always going through the popped up one. So got my blue, and then my next one is one of the pink beads, or the number 3. And then I'm going to go through that last pink bead there on the end that's popped up. And then, so you can kind of see my pattern's just starting to kind of come together. I'm just going to move my ruler down. And so this next row is I'm going to pick up 2 of the number 3. Actually, you're just going to pick up 1, but you're going to do 2 of them in this row. So you're going to pick up 1, go through that pink bead there. Oops, looks like I got a tail stuck in there. And then I pick up 1 more pink bead. And then I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 2 bead. And you're going to go in that last blue bead that's popped up there. Just always make sure on the next rows you're always going through the bead that's popped up. So I'm going to turn and step up. So this next row is I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 2s. I'm going to go into that blue that's already popped up there. So I'm just stepping up to that next row. I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 1s, going through that pink bead there that is popped up. And then I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 3s. So you can see our little pattern's really kind of coming along. So I'm just going to keep stitching away here. So then as I step up to the next row, I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 3s, the pink beads, going through that pink bead that's sitting up there. And I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 1s, going through that blue bead that's popped up there. And then I'm going to go pick up 1 of the number 2 beads and go through that blue bead there in the end that's popped up. And see there, you can kind of see where my thread got caught on the other bead. Just make sure you kind of just pop it off there with your needle and then pull everything nice and tight. You want to make sure you keep pretty nice tension on this so that all the beads kind of seat up together like little bricks. That's the nice thing about Delicas is that they do seat up pretty nice. So I'm just moving on to my next row here. So I'm going to get 1 of the number 2 bead. Go through the next blue bead there that's popped up. And I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 1 bead. Going through that blue bead that's popped up. And then the last one is 1 of the number 3 beads, going through that last pink one that has popped up. Okay, so this next row, I'm going to pick up a pink bead, number 3, so I'm going to step up, going through that pink bead that we just added there that's popped up. And then I'm going to pick up a second one of the same color. And I'm going to go through that blue bead that's popped up there. And then the next one is I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 2 beads and go through that last blue bead that's popped up. All right, so just keep stitching along here. So my next one is I'm going to pick up 1 of the number 2s, the blue beads. I'm going to go through that blue bead I just added, the one that's popped up. It's like step up and turn. And then I pick up 1 of the dark blue beads, or the number 1 beads. I'm going to go through that pink bead that's popped up there. And then I'm going to pick up 1 of the pink beads, the number 3, and go through that last pink bead that's popped up there on the end. Again, just make sure you're always going through the beads that are popped up on your peyote. So you do a couple more rows here to show you. So I'm going to pick up one of the 3 beads and turn and step up to the next row and go through that last pink one I just added. Pull everything nice and tight. I'm going to do one of the number 1 beads. And then do one of the number 2 beads. Let's move down. So my next row here, I'm going to pick up one of the number 2s. As I turn and step up, I'm going to go through that blue one that's popped up there. I'm going to pick up one of the number 1s. Oops. And then I'm going to pick one of the number 3s and go through that last pink bead there. Okay. So my next row here, I'm going to pick up one pink or one of the number 3s and go through that pink one that I just added, turning and stepping up to the next row. And then I pick up a second pink bead, go through that next blue bead that's popped up there. Then I'm going to pick up one of the number 2s and go through that last blue bead in that row that's popped up. All right, so as you can see here, I've got a little strip done. And so I'm just going to keep continuing this pattern, just stitching this strip up until I have it's 24 beads long. And then I will show you how to attach it to the carrier bead and then stitch it together. And then we'll show you how to string up the bracelet. So I'm going to finish this strip and then we'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and I finished my first strip of peyote here. So it's 24 beads long, and what we're going to do now is we are going to glue it to the carrier bead, because that's what these beads are made for. The carrier beads is so you can put peyote strips on them. And so to do that, I'm going to use the E6000. So I'm just going to take a little bit of E6000, and I always put it like on a bag or cardboard or a post-it note, something just to make it a little bit easier to get out. And then I just use a toothpick. And what you're going to want to do is put a little bit on the toothpick. And E6000 is kind of stringy, so make sure your strings don't get stuck on anything there. And you're just going to apply a little bit to one side. And you don't need a whole lot. You don't want it to kind of, come out the sides. So I'm just putting a very thin layer on there. I did accidentally get a little bit on my finger, so I'm just going to take that off. And now what you're ready to do is this one side has the glue on it. So I'm going to take that bead and I'm going to set it face down onto my peyote strip. And then I'm going to just take a little bit more glue and put on the other side here. And then we're going to fold it up and then we're just going to stitch those ends together. So I'll just put a little bit more glue on there. All right. All right, so now I'm at this point where I'm going to fold the ends together. So I'm just going to fold them up here, each side. Whoop. All right, so you can see your little beadwork just comes together right like that. So I went ahead and I wove in my working thread, and I took off my stop bead off my tail, and I threaded my needle onto my tail thread. So I'm just going to zip this up and further secure it onto the carrier bead. And so to do that, I'm just going to zip up from the starting line to the finishing part there. So I'm coming out this bead. You can see that's where my tail is coming out. So I'm just going to jump down to the turquoise bead there, right below it. And kind of get this first one going here. There. And then I'm just going to zip up to the next one. So you're really just like going through this almost kind of like a zipper. a little bit. I'm just going to go to all those beads there that are popped up. It's a little hard to see that blue bead, but there is a blue bead popped up, so I'm going to go through that. And I'm coming through there, and then I'm going to go to this next blue bead here. And pull in everything tight. And then I'm going to jump up to the next pink bead, because you're just zipping those two ends together. And then I'm going to go through that last pink bead there. And at that point, I just want to make sure that it's sitting on my carrier bead even there still. So it is. So I've got those parts zipped up, but I want to just make it a little bit more secure. So I'm just going to turn, coming out this pink bead that we just went through, and I'm just going to go through the pink bead in that next row down. And then just stair step down back through to the other side one more time. Just to make sure it's really nice and zipped up there. Make sure you're just going through one bead at a time and pulling your thread tight so you have nice tension. You're just kind of going back through those beads that you had just gone through, just to zip it back up in the other way. All right, I'm going to go out to that last turquoise bead. And at this point, it's pretty well secured and zipped up, so I'm just going to turn and just weave off my tail here. And then I'm going to trim it. And when you're weaving in your tail or your working thread, you just want to make sure that you kind of stay in the same pattern of the peyote, of the stair stepping. Don't just go like straight across or anything, because you could see your thread. Just make sure you're just like, stair stepping through there. And two, the nice thing with peyote, because we've turned quite a few times, you don't really need to add any like half hitch knots or anything. It's pretty secure because of all the turns. So I'm going to go out through a couple more beads here. And that should be good. So then I'm going to take my cutters and I'm just going to cut off that beading thread. And at this point, I'm just going to make sure that my carrier bead is sitting in there evenly. It's not too much sticking out on either side. And this one is done. So I'm going to finish up the others pattern. So I need to stitch one more of this. So you're going to stitch 2 peyote strips for each pattern. So 2 of A, 2 of B, 2 of C, 2 of D, and 2 of E, and 2 of F. So that you'll have 2 of each of them. And so I'm going to go ahead and finish those other strips up here, and then we'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead and I stitched up the rest of my peyote strips, and I've attached them to the carrier beads. So you'll have 2 of each pattern. And you just want to make sure that you've let your glue dry a little bit before you go ahead and string up your bracelet, just so that your peyote strip doesn't slip off your carrier beads. So to string this bracelet up, I went ahead and I cut 2 10-inch pieces of the Stretch Magic, and I already went ahead and pre-stretched it so that when you do start to wear your bracelet, it will not stretch out on your wrist. So the pattern that we are stringing up is just 1 carrier bead and 1 pearl, and it just alternates between those. So I'm just going through the first hole of each carrier bead to start. I'm actually going to turn this guy around here. So I'm just going to bring that to the end of my Stretch Magic. And then I'm going to pick up 1 pearl. And if your pearl holes are kind of clogged a little bit, sometimes that can happen. You can't get your Stretch Magic through. You can just go ahead and clean them out a little bit with a needle or a bead reamer, just very gently to clean out some of the coating that can get in there. So you're just going to grab 1 of each of your pattern here. Just going to get that there. And so this next guy is going to be this one here, right? So I'm going to go through him. And you really could string these up in any pattern that you liked. We just alternated, so it was 1 of each pattern, and then it just repeats. So we do 1 flower one. And you can see, too, on these strips that we ended up using all 5 of the colors in the mini palette. It's just that first one just had the 3 colors. So it's like you do end up using all of the colors in your mini palette. And this is a great bracelet design that you could switch out the colors and make it another colorway. It'd be really pretty in like black and white. That would be fun, I think. So you're just going to keep stringing up 1 carrier bead and 1 pearl just through the first hole of the carrier beads. All right, and then the next one is a little stripey guy. Whoops. And so it's stripey, and then the next one is one of these little flowers. Okay, so I've got my first round in there, and now, so we've done one of each, so now I'm just ready to just repeat back at the beginning. Whoops. So I got that one, and then I'm going to do one of these guys. Do a flower one. Striped one. Yeah. My last stripe, and then I've got one more flower. All right, and then you end with a pearl bead. All right, so I've got my first section here done. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for my second strand, and then I'm going to go ahead and crimp it. So I'm going to do my second strand, and I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead and I've strung up, went through both holes of my carrier bead. So you have two pieces of the Stretch Magic, and so I'm just going to bring my ends together with a crimp bead and crimp it. So I'm going to do the first one first, top hole. So I'm going to take the crimp bead and put the Stretch Magic through it, and then I'm going to bring this other side. You'll want to kind of hold the Stretch Magic out of the way to get your second one in there. So you're just going to thread them in there, kind of opposite directions, and then pull it down and we'll crimp it. There we go. All right. So you'll bring your two sides together. Let's get this other one out of the way there. Oops, well, lost one of my beads. Great. All right. So I got this first one. I'm just going to pull it really tight, and then I'm going to just go ahead and crimp the crimp bead with my chain nose pliers just to flatten it. So the first one is done. And I just need to put this pearl back on there because it fell off. You can always use a bead stopper to put on the end there so that doesn't happen to you. All right, so I got my second crimp bead and my second strand here. So this, I'm just going to go back through the crimp bead here with my second strand. So you're just kind of going in opposite directions and then pulling it down to your piece. I'm going to take chain nose pliers and you're going to just crimp that crimp bead there. So it's nice and snug there. Then I'm just going to take my cutters and I'm just going to cut the extra pieces of the Stretch Magic, the little tails here. All right. And there you go. You've got the Cozy Up bracelet. You can find all the products and tools for this inspiration design at FusionBeads.com.